Welcome to News9 Live. I'm Kartikeya Sharma and I'm joined by my political editor Brijesh Pandey, and today we are going to talk about a very vexed issue. Our debate, our conversation will be focused on understanding what the sixth schedule is, what separate administration is, why there is a demand for it, why some people are opposed to it, and why some people want it. The tribal and the non-tribal conflict in Manipur has brought the focus back on the question of sixth schedule in the Indian Constitution. The Kuki community, they are demanding a separate administration for the hill region in Manipur under the sixth schedule of the Indian Constitution. The schedule comes under Article 244 and protects tribal interests. The schedule was enacted in 1949 to cover tribal areas in Assam, Tripura and Meghalaya. It has led to the establishment of autonomous district councils that have 5-year terms. The Kukis believe, and the other tribal communities believe, that the separate administration will safeguard the rights of the tribal population through the formation of autonomous district councils. The governors of these states are empowered to reorganize boundaries of the tribal areas. There are 10 areas in Northeast registered as autonomous district. So the question is, what is a separate administration? Why was it created? Can new separate administrations be created? Why are they being opposed? Do they really challenge the territorial integrity of the state? Why has that demand come up now? On this, I am joined by Nabakishore Singha Yumnam, National Spokesperson, World Meitei Council. I am also joined by Dr. Thongalal Haukep, Assistant Professor, Center for the Study of Law and Governance, JNU, and Hasina Harbi, Founder and Chairperson, Impulse NGO and Human Rights Activist, Zoom. So, I would like to start this conversation that what is sixth schedule by getting my political editor, Brijesh Pandey, to tell us what is the sixth schedule, what is separate administration, what does that mean for tribal areas?
Well, I think, as you said at the start of the show, that, the sixth schedule basically consists of provisions for the administration of tribal areas in Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram, and this is as per the Article 244 of the Indian Constitution. It was passed by a Constituent Assembly in 1949. It basically was there to safeguard the rights of the tribal population through, forming of autonomous district councils, and they are, it's like granting them some sort of autonomy within the structure of the state, and the governors of the states were empowered to recognize the boundaries of the tribal areas. I mean, he or she can choose to include, exclude any area, increase or decrease the boundaries, and unite two or more districts into one. So basically, and in this sixth schedule also provided for separate regional councils for each areas, which are constituted as an autonomous region. In all, there are 10 areas in Northeast which is recognized as autonomous districts and all. Separate administration is one word on which is being demanded by the Kuki MLAs, and they are saying that nothing short of separate administration will satisfy what they are looking for, because they are claiming that it is they who are at the receiving end, it is they who are being victimized, and the government of the day, which is government led by Biren Singh, is someone who is only looking after the interest of the Meitei. So this deep tribal divide has accentuated the demand for a separate administration. I think they feel that then they will be in a position to work it around to their advantage and not be completely dependent on for most of the things on the state government.
Okay. Now, my first question is to Nabakishore Singha. Sir, your opinion on separate administration?
Sir, first and foremost, I would like to put, this is not about a fight between a tribal and non-tribal. It's very clear, we should be very clear that it is a fight between the survival of an indigenous community in its own land versus illegal immigrant community who are not indigenous. And furthermore, in this talk, I will not talk beyond anything from this framework, because this is the truth, and if you want to talk or discuss, then I will talk in this framework. This is what I want to put in the very beginning.
I'll come back to you, sir, and I respect your position, but I'll put this question to Dr. Thongolar Haukip. Sir, why is there is fuss about separate administration?
I think, first of all, I would oppose what has been just said, because if there is any immigrants in Manipur, there are laws within the Indian Constitution which, provide a framework to detect and deport such people. I really cannot take such, position that the Kukis are immigrants. The Kukis has been living here for centuries, and if you consider us as immigrants, then we have the right to separate from such toxic people. We have no relationship with such toxic people at all. In any toxic relationship, uh, the wife or anyone who is in the receiving end has the right to live, and no code of law cannot disallow such such position. So let me go back to what you have asked. Since Manipur became a state in 1972, there is a law called Manipur Hill Areas District Council Act 1971. Based on that, district councils were formed and they were governed. Within the first term, the council members realized that they are powerless. They are given just a few administrative positions or powers to rule, and there's nothing, to self-govern themselves. So in 1978 itself, they started asking for the extension of the provisions of sixth schedule, which all tribals in the state of Assam, and later on extended to Tripura within a few years, has to be extended into the state. And that demand keeps on going. And from the late 1980s, there were oppositions to these elections of ADCs, and the ADCs were non-functional for 20 years until 2008, where the Hill Area Committee Chairman Thangmilin Kipgen says that, or convince some of the people that we can amend the law and add more provisions to it, and there is something is better than nothing. So there, of course, there was opposition from Okhrul and other hills, yet that election continues. And just look into it, the nature of this ADCs under the 1971 Act. For instance, it's been the last 2 years that ADCs elections were not here. They are just at the mercy of the state government, whether it's fun, whether or it's anything, it's, they have no power at all. There's no constitutional mechanism hardly functioning into these councils. So they were
Okay.
demanding for the last 45 years that they should be under autonomous councils.
So there are two,
But
Dr.
the state is
Haukip,
not paying.
Dr.
The
Haukip, so
state is not paying any
there are
aid
two
to
issues
all
here,
these
Dr.
demands.
Haukip. So the first issue is who is an illegal, and the second issue is what is the problem with separate administration? Why there are other district councils operating, autonomous areas operating in Northeast. So Nabakishore ji, coming back to you, and then I'll go to Hasina ji. Nabakishore ji, who is an illegal? Who gets to define the illegal in the country, sir, in Northeast, where ethnicities are so diverse and historicity is ancient, and tribes are also very, very ancient communities?
See, we put this point many times ago also, and I still want to put that there are only two indigenous community in Manipur, and that's one is the Meitei and the another is the Nag. Yes, Mr. Haukip may have put that they have been living there for centuries, but the point is that the Kuki have entered to India in 18th century. And that's the point. And that's the point when I say that the talk will be, if this framework is regarding in this framework, then only I can speak.
Mr. Nabakishore, with great respect, I would tell you that we are not here to decide someone who is an outsider to India or not. It has to be decided by the government of Manipur. It has to be decided by the Indian government. We as the citizens of the country do not hold this right to say who are outsiders. So my question, my debate today was, what is the sixth schedule? Lot of people in north, outside northeast, do not understand or know about the concept of sixth schedule, tribal autonomy or tribal districts. And this discussion is to not only about educate other people but educate ourselves on this issue, because the question came up that the territorial integrity of Manipur will be impacted. I would like to take that question to Hasina ji. Hasina ji, do you think that sixth schedule challenges the territorial integrities of state? Is that a correct perspective?
I think we go back by sixth schedule. I think we need to really understand that some of the states are practicing sixth schedule, whether it's even Meghalaya, we are talking about the fact in Mizoram, we are talking about Nagaland. So I think we need to really go deeper when it comes to Manipur, because this has been a pending debate and no consultative review has taken place. And the outbursts of the violence have many opinions at this moment. So I think we need to look at two dimensions. One, reduce the violence, get back to a dialogue of both communities, reviewed what has been pending when it comes to the sixth schedule application. And the sixth schedule application is existing in many states in the Northeast as well. So if Manipur is going to apply that, then I think there has to be a consultative discussions of both the communities and how this has been placed and where is it getting stuck. And I also would like to bring this forward that for an organization like us who have been working on the issue of migration, we have never really looked at the word illegal, because migration is a right. And this has been one of the biggest global debate when we talk about migration, whether it's internally, externally, within borders, looking at the Northeast. In particular, we also have to understand we share international borders with our neighboring countries. We've had issues and concerns of rights of displacement across border, which is also the factual fact of how Indo-Myanmar at this moment is also having a push factor of a lot of communities coming from that part. So I think we should really avoid the word illegal, because human right violations that takes place when there is disturbances, when there is actually any kind of violence that takes place, it makes people move across states, across villages. So internally and externally displaced word is a much more friendlier, human right, appropriate word to be used. The other, I want to say that in this context of what happened to Manipur, I think this is one of the biggest situation of an unresolved an unresolved dialogue. The situation of very similarities in the northeastern states that we have, where we have people who have come before certain years of the demarcation years. So I think let's look at it from that lens. I think even our panel today have given different opinions, but let's look at it from a lens of a very harmonized dialogue, discussions that allow sixth schedule application in a state that has not been applied, and also re-looking at how the sixth schedule is being applied in the state which is existing. That's very important. And I think consultative measures of states that are also applying the sixth schedule can come into these dialogue to see the good and the challenge of it.
Nabakishore, how can different communities, both tribal and the Meitei community, can resolve this issue? How can we approach this debate constructively? How can World Meitei Council create that sort of an environment?
See, the Meitei had been a peace-loving community, and that stands till now. Now, you raised this point of sixth schedule, so that's something I don't want to talk about, because the first and foremost, the whole basis, the demand of by the Kukis friends on this sixth schedule and their separate administration, this is the right way we reject. We don't support. And in fact, it is not that Meitei only. It is also the other tribal community who are non-Kukis community. They are also given this statement. Now, when you ask about this, how do we go hand in hand? And if you see, look into this for the whole problem, because we have been talking this because there are the Kuki militants, who are understood, but that peace rally which was happened on 3rd of May in Churchanpur, okay, and that peace rally, how come there are people who are carrying sophisticated weapon, okay, and that's evident from the photographs. So the problem is who started. So my point is, if we have to live in harmony, then all these things which can trouble to the peace, okay, like the illegally occupied in this forest lands, the reserve forest area, protected area, okay, the government have been doing their work. Why there is opposition? Why they are making such a hue and cry? Because government is doing its own job, okay. So if we talk about the peace we have been living, okay, and that's the point. So this has to be understood very well. Okay, if this is understood, then we can definitely live and we can bring the peace and harmony in the state, the region very soon.
Uh, in a lot of discussions which were held earlier, a lot of people raised concern on Arambai Tengoi. How do you look at it? Because you being the national spokesperson of the World Meitei Council is in a better position. What sort of an organization is that, sir?
Sir, we are World Meitei Council is a civil society organization. It's a registered body, okay, and this Arambai Tengol, actually we don't know about them. Okay, so they could be just some small group of people organized probably, okay, and we just recently heard about it. There are some few people doing this. They have formed this, okay, and then all of a sudden we have also heard that this organization is no more there, okay. So how can I comment on that organization? Okay, all of a sudden they appeared and then disappeared. So I don't think I have any this thing to comment on that.
Okay, so before I go to Mr. Thongolal Haukep, you spoke on the ways to live together, but a lot of people, Nabkishorji, are living in camps, and how do you get them back? They are living in camps. They are camps defined by separate communities. How can we get them to live together? Because you cannot have separate communities living separately in the state of Manipur. I mean to say, Manipur needs to come first.
Last many centuries, but the recent violence has separated us. We are already partitioned. Let's be very clear. No Kuki would go back to Imphal Valley for work or any related things in the coming years. They fear for their lives. They fear for their safety every passing day. So there's no possibility of them going back. So we have to think about it. And as Sir Nabakeswar has stated that there are only two indigenous people in Manipur, the Nagas and Meiteis. So they have to live together. And since we are seen as outsider, we will find ways to talk with the central government, with our land, with our people. So let's go back to how we have been categorized as someone living in forest reserves and protected forests. For the last 150 years, 200 years, 300 years, we have been living in our own land. We have land documents from the British. And how suddenly in November 2022 we become settlers, or we become encroachers, we become trespassers? That has to be questioned. And there is a legal procedure which in India we have an established one. It has to be gone through under all those procedures. Why you term some people as settlers, non-indigenous? That's something the toxic nature of people in Manipur now. And in recent interview, one of the foremost journalists in India, Karan Thapar, said that when the mistrust is so deep, it's best to separate, right? His word has to be taken carefully, and to resolve all these, issues, one has to look into this issue politically. Earlier, the civil society organization
Dr.
a few years
Haukep,
ago.
Dr. Haukep,
Please let me finish.
yeah, please.
Till a few years ago, they were demanding extension of the scheduled areas. But with this partition of Manipur on May 3rd, there is no way of going back and settling, and resolving issues through, the mechanism of sixth schedule. The civil society organizations, the MLAs are demanding separate administration, which is clearly stated in their press release. And that is, it should be a union territory or a separate state. It's not about sixth schedule anymore. Okay, that has to be very clear. So you have to talk with those civil society organizations. I'm here sitting comfortably in Delhi, but people who suffer a lot, people who are crying, people who are traumatized with this, kind of carnage, you have to ask the community, you have to ask the civil society leaders, and we cannot prescribe any solution here.
Dr. Hauke, I just wanted to ask you a question. Why do you think this stereotype is happening?
I think stereotype is happening because they wanted to target and they wanted to suppress the Kukis so that they don't have any political aspirations. It's very clear.
Nabakishorji, can you please respond to this? That why is this stereotyping happening in the society? Nabakishorji.
Sir, for this World Meitei Council, we have put few points. The first, we said that the Meitei being indigenous, with this rapid change of demography, the Meitei being an indigenous community, we want a constitutional protection. Number two, we said that the NRC to be implemented in Manipur. Okay, so government have already initiated and proposed some cutoff year. Okay, and those who came after the cutoff year, that has to go back from where they come. We are not saying that everyone has to go from there. Okay, this is I want to correct. Okay, now it is more the core problem. We need to understand the core problem. The core problem is about a indigenous community, Meitei, who does not have any constitutional protection, and in its own homeland, Meitei does not have any second homeland. If they go extinct from Manipur, then Meitei cannot show any place where they have this identity. So that's the biggest question. And what I would like to put here is that there had been peace in the state, and there will be always peace, but we need to understand how do we stay together. Okay, the kind of the aggression, the kind of the intention put from the Chin Kuki side, that is actually a very, very alarming, very, very threatening. And the disturbance, if you see that together, okay, I'm basically just not blaming. We need to We need to understand. In 1993, there was a fight between Naga, and exactly after 3 decades, again, there's a fight with the Meitei. So we need to understand this, that why we should have this kind of aggression, and if we have intent to live together, okay? I'm not saying that we want everyone to go back, okay? Please implement NRC in Manipur. That's our voice to the Manipur. I think this makes very clear to the crux of this problem.
Okay, so there are 3 issues. What is a separate administration? Whose homeland is Manipur? Is NRC the question? I am also joined by senior journalist, our colleague Subir Bhaumik ji, whom we call Dada. Dada, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Dada, first of all, is separate, there are 2 things I am putting to you. Is separate administration the way out? And who is an outsider? Whose homeland is Manipur? Who does it belong to? You know, it's the question is like essentially who belongs to Manipur? So my first question to you is can 6th schedule and separate administration create a working ground, or you see that that's not the path which can be taken now?
Well, 6th schedule definitely was the solution, and it should have been implemented long time back. Point is, when you ask for 5 rupees and you don't get it, then you ask for 50, and then the bargain is, 50, say 30, 30, say 40, that kind of thing. So what I'm trying to drive at is that the Kukis, if they got 6th schedule earlier, when the demand was first raised, I think autonomy, in some form would have satisfied it. Though it's true that in many places I've seen, including my home state, Tripura, that when somebody gets autonomy, starts asking for more. In Tripura also we have seen sixth schedule has been extended to the Tribal Autonomous District Council, which is tribals are 30% of the population and 70% land area they've got. We're fine with it. The point is now suddenly there's some politicians who started asking for a greater Tripura land, whatever that means. So it's true, this is a very two-way sword. On the one hand, if you grant autonomy, it does satisfy a lot of people and tackles the aspiration aspect. But some would always say, oh, we've got this, now this is a staging post, let's ask for more. And when somebody does that, automatically the others would become suspicious of this whole exercise of autonomy. In the case of Manipur, therefore, if you give sixth schedule, it should have sorted the problem. Now the Kukis think after all these riots that things have come to a pass when they need separate administration, by which they mean separate state, union territory, whatever. Government of India is very clear. They are not going to do any further territorial reorganization in Northeast, which is why the Bodos were asking for a separate state. They got a territorial council. The Dimasas were asking for a separate state, got an autonomous council. And same with the Karbis in Assam. In Tripura also, the greater Tripura land demand which surfaced before the recent election has fallen through. So I don't see the government of India conceding a separate state or even a separate union territory. In southern Mizoram, the three district councils, Lais, Maras, Chakmas, they got together and demanded a union territory. No. So I think, to be realistic, the Kukis will have to settle for sixth schedule if that is granted. And then we can debate, whether, how sixth schedule can actually bring in certain element of greater autonomy. But to ask for separate Kuki land, Kuki state, I think it is no. On the other hand, this NRC thing that has come up, the demand, it has not sorted out anything in Assam except creating more problems. And now the person who was the greatest proponent of NRC in Assam, the Chief Minister, Himanta Biswa Sharma, he is asking for another NRC. He says the earlier NRC. Earlier when the NRC happened, Pratik Hajela, the coordinator, was hailed as a hero in Assam. Today he's seen as a villain. They think they've got it all wrong. So I don't think NRC is a solution. What we have to do is appropriate updating of electoral rolls under the People's Representation Act so that anybody who is non-Indian, who is non-citizen, and or who has got citizenship in a fraudulent way should be eased out. NRC, I think NRC has only caused enormous misery to a lot of bona fide Indian nationals, and it has not solved any problem for those who wanted it. So these hardline Assamese groups, they're asking for NRC again. Doesn't solve anything. How long you will, then they'll say, oh, ye bhi nahi hua, let's have it again. Indian taxpayers' money, you think it's a joke? So NRC is out of the window as far as I'm concerned. NRC does not solve anything. You need to do a good job with existing legal provisions rather than getting these new things. So what you do is you do a proper updating of electoral rolls, ensure that all fraudulent voters are out of the window, and you actually ensure that non-citizens are out of the window. Having said that, I think India is not a signatory to the Refugee Convention. With the situation in Myanmar degenerating very fast, conflicts spreading very fast, there is a durable disorder in Myanmar, there is a civil war situation in Myanmar, you can only expect a lot of refugees to come into the bordering Indian states. This is bound to create a lot of problems. And therefore, we have to find ways and means to confine bona fide refugees in designated refugee camps so that they don't spill over into the and mingle with the population and then get Indian citizenship by fraudulent means. Having said that, the last point I make is, as Haukip was saying, is right. And I faced this problem myself as a Bengali. I was born in 1956 in Bangalore. My father was an Air Force officer. But I've been called a Bangladeshi. So every Kukichin out there cannot be called a Burmese infiltrator. No, they are also sons of the soil. They have as much right on Manipur as any Meitei or any Naga, as much as I have every right on Tripura, because my family settled in Tripura in 1910. A lot of tribals doing Jum cultivation, shifting cultivation, came into Tripura in 1940s, 50s, 60s from Chittagong hill tracts. He is not a foreigner, I'm a foreigner. This is not acceptable. So much as we need to get hold of the infiltration, illegal migration situation, weed out illegal voters, identify them if necessary, but they are also bona fide refugees seeking Indian shelter in India, humanitarian consideration,
Dada,
but we have to put them in
Dada,
designated camps. Now,
Dada,
these designated
Dada, that was very passionately and very eloquently put by you. You know, this is something which we have been discussing right from the word go. Dr. Hakop, if I can come to you, there's this demand of NRC. How do you see this demand, and do you think that this NRC is going to solve any of the problem?
Let me start by sharing my experience. During the 1980s, I was for 2 years living in Langur housing complex, which is in Imphal. And one of our immediate neighbor was a Kachari, right? There are many Kacharis, many people from Sylhet who has remigrated after the 7 years devastation in Manipur back to Imphal Valley. So how are you going to identify them? Do you, all those Manipuris who view Imphal as their homeland, coming back from Kachar or from Tripura or from Sylhet, are they going to be driven back? That has to be asked at the first place. I love my neighbor. They were very kind-hearted. We share our experiences. As a kid, I went to their home, watched the Doordarshan. That kind of love is, there, in the 1980s. So are you going to drive them back, even the Manipuris? So that's what I wanted to question to Oza Nabakishore.
Okay, so at this point of time, I would also like to join Hasina. She has been very patiently listening. Hasina, who is an outsider? Who is an outsider? And why can't devolution of power work?
I think we really need to stop using this insider, outsider as a very conflicting debate on human rights, of people who are actually internally displaced, externally has come into our countries. I know Mr. Subir Momik has mentioned, of course, we are not signatory to the refugees, but we are signatory to many other protocols that our country has imbibed to allow humanitarian coexistence and support when there's a crisis. But when things get jumbled up and intermix, it also creates a lot of confusion. So let's look at from the lens, which is a human right value principle that India as a country has also adopted and signed other protocol to protect women and girls and other communities who are in. Let's look at the existing debate that is happening at the moment. Let's look at a consultative ways forward. I know NRC is not the solution at all. Let's look at what is the present context that needs to be addressed. I think peace, reconciliation is the most immediate. Next, whatever violence has taken place, whatever kind of, I would say people have lost their economic, they've lost their houses. How can the state help to at least bring some support at this moment? Because we cannot go backward. We have to look forward. Let's look at the harmonizing of the communities in the state that has lived for many years. I agree with all the three panelists, their opinions of the harmonizing way. As a person who works with migration issues and concern, we have been working with the Myanmaris who have been displaced in all the three states. We have been addressing that. And truthfully to be telling this, that the communities, even in Manipur, has been so supportive to look at that no displaced people are going to go without food or without food security. Our initiative has happened because both the communities has welcomed that support for 1.5 years. This outbreak is unfortunate. This outbreak has other, intent by other groups. it is not an overall of the communities. Let me just bring that, because I think having worked on the ground from the civil society, working for migration for 25 years, we work in Myanmar. I've been going in and out, Myanmar and the Northeast, constantly. I've seen this harmonized living. I've seen how displaced people, even at this moment, even among the communities, the Kukis and the Meiteis that we are working. If you won't believe it, I mean, I can send you pictures that they're even sharing a lot of the food security that we have been supporting of the crisis of the Indo-Myanmar situation. I know
Okay.
there's complexities of the political issues, there's complexities of unresolved debate of the separate administration. But can we also look at from the humanitarian ground at this moment? Can we also look at what are the next step forward? Can we bring people who have more understanding on the situation more eagerly to take a way forward, to set up committees to help the state, to help the whole support system at this moment, so that this can be resolved in the much more, constitutionally, where everybody voices are heard and protected, their rights are protected.
Okay, and let me go back to Mr. Nabakishore Singha Yumnam. Sir, you heard everyone's opinion on National Register of Citizens, Homeland, separate administration. My question to you is, why is World Meitei Council insisting on NRC?
Sir, you have put questions that who are the original living community in Manipur. Both of the panelists have avoided that answer, and I know that, and it's very unfortunate. Okay, I'll come to your points, answers for all the questions. Now, let me tell you, the first, we are indigenous, and we want a constitutional protection, and there our Kuki friends have opposed it. The first question, that's the thing, that when we asked to safeguard our own identity in the changing rapid demography, then why you have to oppose? Okay, you are demanding your own protection, okay, and at the same time you are opposing one of the indigenous community who are demanding this constitutional protection, and you're opposing. Now, we didn't say that everyone has to go back from there. The point, it comes not about the NRC. The NRC is an instrument which is designed or which is set up by the government. Now, if you talk about, Bhomik sir has mentioned that it is a fault, there's a the issues are there. Okay, I'm not a competent person to talk about that. The government has to look into it. If the NRC is faulty, if the NRC system is faulty, then there is a mechanism to be there to identify the people who came from outside, and with a certain cutoff year, those people has to go back. Okay, now there it comes. We say that in the current setup constitutionally, there is a setup that NRC, and we talked about that. But if there is any other mechanism, if the government has set up that, oh, NRC is a faulty mechanism, let's have this one, we welcome. Okay, and sir, you had put another questions which I actually missed out.
Question to you was that why World Meitei Council is insisting on NRC, the issue of outsider,
Yeah,
where
that's what I said.
electoral rolls revision can tell you who is an illegal immigrant and who is living in Manipur for last 100 years.
Sir, did there any initiative to identify with a certain cutoff year who came after that? There is not. So that's why we are asking. And for now, we believe that the NRC can resolve this. Okay, if there was a mistake in Assam, then the system should be learned where the fault was gone. Okay, let the system be correctified. Okay, so, and another point which I would like to talk about with the Bhomik sir. Okay, I didn't interrupt, but he said about the Tripura, and he supported about the 6th schedule for the tribals of the Tripura. Yes, they are the legitimate, they are the indigenous community. Yes, I agree on that. I don't have any debate on that. However, when you talked about Meitei for the Manipuri, you didn't say anything about the Meitei. And that's very unfortunate. And I have been telling that Meitei is one of the indigenous community living as per the National Archive, New Delhi, that Meitei, as per those old manuscripts, it is a 3,400 years ago, Meitei have been there. And now we are asking for a constitutional protection for this indigenous community. We are a thinking community, and that there is no mention about it.
Okay.
That's my side.
Okay. Before I go to Dada, I will take this question to Dr. Haukep. You know, and let me take this position. How do you look at it? Because if one community says that they are the original inhabitants, isn't it like othering the other community? I mean to say, Kukis are as Indian as Nagas, and Nagas are as Indian as Biharis, and Biharis are as Indian as people from Tamil Nadu. Dr. Haukep.
Yes. Let me explain as an academic by the term indigenous, right? There are so many indigenous people in the world. There are red Indians in South America, in Canada, in Australia. There are many criteria to be called an indigenous people. And just by fulfilling one criteria, that is original settler, you don't become indigenous people. Let's be clear. There are many criteria. So just by fulfilling the term original settler does not mean that you are indigenous people. So, I've already responded by saying that there are many constitutional mechanisms in the existing legal framework to identify and deport illegal immigrants. I am an Indian. I don't support, people, too much people coming into or job scarce, resource scarce land. There has to be a mechanism. We have a problem in Burma. We have a political instability. There are, refugees coming in the borders of Manipur. We have suggested ways to tackle it, like giving temporary resident certificate or something like identity card to let them settle until the political problem is settled there. They will go back. But however, the government of Manipur is not willing to do that, unlike Mizoram. So we have to talk. There needs to be a dialogue on immigration also. And you can't wholesale blame the old Kuki communities who have been in Manipur for the last 300, 400 years as immigrants. Because this southern Manipur is a cultural area. We live here, we move somewhere, but this is a whole cultural area of the Kuki, Chin, Mizo people. So you can't, see this area as something all the immigrants settle here. So there is a problem in that.
Do you think, Dr. Haukep, that if if one community says that they are the original community, it might end up othering the other communities? That is the real danger. कि हम ही यहाँ के लोग हैं.
Absolutely. I have been writing which in different academic journals will come out, like how selective targeting of cookies, selective othering of these people, or there are different mechanisms have been practiced to target the cookies in terms of eviction of forests. Kampupi, Chirasanpur has been targeted. What about other so-called reserved forests and protected forests in the whole state? So it has been selectively chosen to other the cookies.
Okay. Now, Dada Subir Bhaumik ji, please respond to Naba Kishore Singha ji.
Well, Northeast India, this whole indigenous debate is like an Indian third-class railway compartment. Somebody who has got in does not want anybody else to come in. And you know how it is like in the railway compartment. All these people that we're talking about at some point of time have come from different parts of Southeast Asia. The trouble is that the migration from different parts of Southeast Asia took place over a longer period of historical time. When the British came in, they started bringing in people for their own plantation economy and different other reasons from Bengal, especially to man the administration. But taking in Bengalis, to man administration, Pandits, this has been practiced by Manipuri kings also. But then the British brought them in large numbers. They brought laborers from Chota Nagpur, they brought laborers from Bihar. So Northeast is both a flower garden as far as variety is concerned, diversity is concerned, and it's also a fluid corridor. through this corridor, people have come from east to west and west to east. And therefore, to say that one community is indigenous and therefore sacrosanct and can't be touched, as I said in my own example, my grandfather came to Tripura in 1910. There are any amount of tribals who Nabokeshwar ji says are indigenous. Shamacharan Tripura, his family came into Tripura in 1949 looking for June pastures. From where? Bangladesh, Chittagong Hill Tracts. He is indigenous, I am not. Because I speak Bengali, okay? And I don't speak the tribal language. I do actually. So this is all bumcum. This whole issue is bumcum. To say that there are some, indigenous people who are sacrosanct, everybody has come from somewhere. Everybody, these Tibeto-Mongoloid groups, it's come from somewhere. They have settled here for a longer period, but it's also true that the Naga Hills and the southern hills where the Kukis live, they have also lived there for very, very long time. And therefore, the kings of Manipur, when they expanded the kingdom from the valley area and went into the hills, these areas came under them. Like the kings of Tripura had conquered even parts of eastern Bengal. The inscription of Pilak can be found, Vijay Manikko's inscription, somewhere near Dhaka. So to say that these Bengalis who came into Tripura are, not indigenous, because the kings of Tripura extended their kingdoms into large parts of East Bengal and they ruled over them. And these Bengalis saw themselves as subjects of the king of Tripura, not the subjects of British. So, history is much more complicated than the way, very simplistic way of putting it, that this man is indigenous
very well
and this
put,
man is
Dada.
not.
Very well put on this. First, I'll go to Hasina ji, then Nabakishore ji, and then to Dr. Thongalal Haukep ji. Hasina ji, to you. You respond to this.
Yes, I think what Mr. Subir Bobik has mentioned has a lot of depth of the reality of the Northeast, and we cannot neglect and we cannot overlook that. But at the same time, I think different opinions are coming where I think people like us who are sitting and having this debate, people who have experiences from different lens of the situation of the region and also the situation on the ground that has been a complex issue of many states and many communities, will need to harmonize our thinking process, harmonize to take a lead to support communities, leaders to come together for this consultative dialogue. Because unless until we do that, the debate will go on, but the ground reality situation will continue to be a challenge. So there are two levels, the challenge of which is the most immediate that need to be resolved, peace and security support system. How do we get that forward? The state will have to act upon that. The support system of the central government giving to the state will have to act upon it to reduce any kind of violence that will come forward or try to navigate another violence effect. I know no one in the communities, at least with information from the ground, from our state partners who's working on the ground, no one from the ground reality who are normal communities, people who have lived in harmony together, want any more violence. It is not very easy to be internally displaced, to lose out whatever you have, your economic that you have. There are also camps which they are together, some of the camp they are separate. So these are factual situation of the ground. Now, before we go to the next level, where we're talking about dialogue, sixth schedule, we're talking about the separate admin, all of this can be consultative, where people with the knowledge, with the background, can actually sit in this round table. It has to be initiated by the state. The state will have to initiate this to at least see how the prolonged situation that has not been discussed can be discussed as a way forward. And that opinions that come on that consultative can also have other states who are actually, applying the sixth schedule, what inputs they can provide. People like Mr. Subir Bhowmik, who've had a very in-depth about the Northeast, what input can we provide to that platform? These are very important way forward. And I know that we cannot forget what has happened, but I think the healing process and the strength of a lot of people in the Northeast has taken this even in the past
Okay.
to move on.
Okay, Hasina ji. Nabakishore Singha ji, would you like to respond to Subir Bhaumik ji?
Sir, actually, I would like to respond altogether, and I think this will be the last opportunity for me to talk because the discussion session will be going to be end. So, I would like to request Bhomik sir, because Bhomik sir always mentioned that he belongs to Bengali, and Bengali is a internationally recognized community. Now, which I'm talking about, I belong to Manipuri. I mean, which outsiders say, and we ourselves are Meitei community. Globally, our population is just about 17 lakhs. The same I talk about our Naga friends. If you put global population of the Naga people, they are also much higher than the Meitei. Meitei is just, I mentioned, about 17 lakhs global population. Now, same goes to our Kuki friends. They also much higher than the global population of Kukis, much higher than the Meitei. So the point I'm talking about that it is about the protection of a indigenous community. Okay, when Meitei dies, and there are only one handful people there, and the whole world will come and then come and search. Oh, there was a very nice people in this very corner of this one of the state of India. Let's save them, and that will be too late. And that's why I urge everyone come forward and help this community to survive. Let them not go to extinction. That's the point. We are the most peace lover. I think that's the community. I think that's no one can debate. And when we requested for the constitutional protection ST status, okay, the other community who are living in Manipur, state of Manipur, they should support us. That's the only request. And if this fulfilled, then we always be there as a with the peace and the harmony. That's the final word I would like to put here.
Nabakishore ji, I have a question to you. What will constitutional protection give the Meitei community? If you can take us through, what does it provide?
The first and foremost is which we are looking for constitutional protection, because what I'm putting here, the state for is the scheduled tribe status. That's all.
You know, a lot of people would understand that. Why is that demand being raised? If you can just tell us, a lot of people would like to know that why is that demand coming from the Meitei community?
Sir, if you look into the current situation in Manipur, I'm talking about the rules. Let's talk about the land rules. The Meitei can leave only 9% of the total land area in Manipur. Okay, and this 9% land is not for only the Meitei. Every community can live there. Okay, and when a tribal community who are given the scheduled tribe status, when they buy a land from a Meitei person, maybe the Meitei person, due to the financial need, he sold out that land to a scheduled tribe. Currently, those who hold the scheduled tribe status, the community, then the rule of the land says that suppose that Meitei fellow, he earns some money or he manages some fund financially, that he want to buy back his ancestral property, the rule does not allow.
The rule does not
Then
allow.
where is the human rights?
You are saying the
This
rule
is the
does not
crux
allow.
of the problem, sir. This is the crux of the problem. Let's understand this.
And and what about the settlement? Do you think that the inability of the Meitei community to settle outside Valley is an issue? Is that an issue?
Sir, the Meitei have been living in the valley for many years, and by giving this ST status, I don't think many Meitei will be straightforward, climb up, and then settle the hills. But the scheduled tribe, the status of scheduled tribe, that will protect the Meitei's identity. This will give the space for the Meitei for protect from this changing, the rapid changing of the demography in the state.
Are you saying that the demography change is the real issue?
Yes, that's the real issue.
That's the real issue?
Yes.
So how do you want the issue of demography to be addressed by the state government?
That's what we say. Let's identify the people, those rapid influx, the people who came from the neighboring country, Myanmar. Because the border is not properly sealed, that anyone can enter. So that's the we point this point. So how to check it? The government should implement a mechanism. And we talked about NRC because that's the only instrument we see that it's available. And if the government says that no, we have better mechanism, yes, we welcome that. And now you understood because of this changing demography, now the Meitei are also the current rules that allow the Meitei to confine, to live together with everyone in this valley. And once the Meitei has sold out this property to a tribal person now, or the scheduled tribe status who hold now, okay, the Meitei person cannot buy back. Then where he has to go?
Nabakishore ji, there is Brijesh Pandey this side. There is also a degree of disquiet which we saw during the agitation which was there in Manipur, where people were talking about the absence of Manipuri MLAs. Because Kuki MLAs have been writing letters and seeking action, seeking separate administration, but there have been a degree of disquiet and questions were raised. Where they're asking about where are our MLAs. Do you think that? What do you have to say about this?
Mother's Market, sir.
Mother Market protest.
I actually didn't get your point, sir. I mean,
I'll tell you what Brijesh ji was talking about. Nabakishore ji. Nabakishore ji. What Brijesh ji was saying was that there was a protest at Mother's Market which took place in Imphal. So when the Mother's Market protest took place, so the women said, where are the MLAs? And they were saying that when you have the MLAs from Kuki community saying that we want separate administration, you don't find Meitei MLAs anywhere. So the protest told us two things. One, the deep division between the Manipuri society, and secondly, absence of MLAs.
So, how I cannot command the people, those MLAs, those political leaders. That's why World Meitei Council have been condemning this. The MLAs, they don't come forward to support, to safeguard their even own community. That's what World Meitei Council have been condemning.
Okay.
They are not standing with the community.
Yes, they are not protecting the community. They are not supporting the community.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Nabakishore ji, point blank. Is World Meitei Council happy with Biren Singh's job as a chief minister?
Okay, you put me into a very critical this thing, and
but it's an honest question, sir. It's an honest question.
It's an honest question, and World Meitei Council is not happy with any political leaders, be it in Manipur or be it in center.
Can you repeat yourself, sir, again? We had lost your audio for a minute.
This is a very, very important context. This is very important context, sir. You put this question. So, the Meitei have been demanding for the civil tribe status for more than 10 years. And the Ministry of Home Affairs already sent a letter to then Chief Minister Ibobi, okay, to send two reports, latest socio-economic report, the second, the ethnographic report of the Meitei, to send to the Ministry of Home Affairs for further analyze, for assess whether the Meiteis are eligible for this the ST status to Meitei. Okay, during that Ibobi time, he didn't do anything, and now Mr. Biren, he is also not doing anything. Then Meitei, CSO, Meitei Tribes Union, they have knocked to Honorable High Court of Manipur's door that this report have been pending for so many years and the government is not taking any interest to send. There, the verdict came that has to be sent in 4 weeks' time to the government of Manipur. Though now that has been extended, government have requested to.
Why is this happening? One that I would like to know, and before I go to Subir Bhaumik ji, Dr. Thangolal Haukip ji, Hasina Karbi ji waiting with us, Mr. Purkais ji is also waiting with us in this special edition. Nabakishore ji, is my sound coming to you, sir? I think we will go to Nabakishore ji. Dr. Thangolal Haukip
But I
ji,
think Karthikeya, he's made a couple of very exclusive
how would you
points.
like to react? Dr. Thangolal Haukip ji.
Okay, let me first put by saying that the claim of the Manipuris being not allowed to settle in the hills is, I think, wrong, in the sense that as far as the Kuki areas is concerned, there are Manipuri settlements, huge Manipuri settlements in Churachandpur. They are doing business, thriving business. They are, and in More also, which is a Kuki-dominated border town. So there are huge Manipuri population settled in that town. And it's not only in the towns, but there is a village called Kwatha, which is near Khudeng Thabi and also close to More. There is a village, a big village in Kwatha. These are Manipuri settlements in the Kuki-dominated areas. So the concept of Manipuri being not allowed to settle or buy land in the hills is, I think, something that has to be revisited. And secondly, to bring peace in Manipur, I think there needs to be a dialogue. And firstly, there has to be a political settlement. There are demands coming up from the MLS, as we all know. Unless we talk with the CSOs, now that all Kuki houses in Imphal are gone, there are separations, there are a complete, a demarcation of imaginary boundaries between the Imphal Valley and the hills. Let's talk about political solution rather than anything to bring peace in this state. So, the Kuki leaders don't want to talk with the Manipur government because they can't go back to Imphal. Their lives are in, on the line. They don't feel secure. And they wanted to talk only with the central government. So political solution has to be arrived at, whether it's a smaller, settlement or a bigger one. So let the Home Ministry took the initiative in talking with the Kuki leaders. And secondly, there is another issue also, which I would like to highlight again, that there is a radicalization in Manipur. For instance, the Arambai Tengol or Meitei Lipun. Why these people are being radical? Because there is huge unemployment issue. And the political class and others took advantage of these unemployed youths. Instead of talking about unemployment, giving jobs, generating jobs, we are, in this cycle of violence, radicalization. So how do we solve this? The government has to take initiative rather than, adding fuel to the fire. That's very important, and I hope everyone will agree to this.
Dr.
So,
Haukip,
yes.
Dr. Haukip, a very strange paradox is emerging. You are saying, and most of the Kuki people are saying that that we don't trust the chief minister because he's known as a Meitei chief minister, and this has been documented several times in the last several days. We were talking to Nabakishore ji. He's saying that the Manipur chief minister is not listening to them. He's not standing up for the community. So, do you see a dichotomy there?
They are saying that because he is unable to execute whatever has been demanded by them. So that is the problem. What about the demand by the Kukis? Has he implemented anything? Not even a single demand or concern has been, addressed by the chief minister. And, not addressing a single issue of ST status is just a minuscule of the very abundant demands or, the many demands that are put forward by the dominant community.
Okay.
So we have to look into in that lens.
Nabakishore ji, Nabakishore ji, if you're there with me, am I audible to you, sir? Okay.
Yes, I'm audible very much.
Thank you so much, Nabakishore ji, because after that, I'll take the points you have spoken to other esteemed guests on my show. Nabakishore ji, you said that there is great unhappiness with Biren Singh. But then a lot of people would say that the major stakeholders in Manipur are the Meitei communities. Why are a majority community having a minority complex. Many people, your detractors, would say that, sir.
Before that, sir, I would like to clarify Dr. Harkip's one point that Meitei have been living in the More Chuachanpur. Okay, the Meitei who have been living there, okay, they are the original settler. They have been there the ages back. Okay, if they sell out their property from there, they cannot come back and settle there. That's what I have been telling. Okay, but now a Meitei cannot go and buy to the Churachandpur or those areas where it is protected by the land of the laws. So I'm correcting this. Okay, now you were saying Meitei is majority there. Okay, now let's talk about, okay, it is not about majority and minority here. Let me correct. It is about one of the indigenous communities' survival or how to protect from extinction. I say, globally, Meitei population, you have to think from the global point of view. Meitei population is just about 17 lakhs, whereas Naga community or the Kuki community is much beyond that. That's a crux. Now, if you just talk about that in the Meitei, and now the Meiteis are living in 9% of the land area, which I've already told about that, then why this minority, majority, all these points are coming in? It's a very straightforward. It's just like transparent. It's a crystal clear. We're talking about a community. There is no second home for Meitei except Manipur. Please understand this. Please understand this. For the Chin-Kuki community brothers, they have also settler in Myanmar. Okay, in fact, the Naga community also have their own state. And in fact, in Myanmar, before this military coup, when the democracy was there were Chin-Kuki community representatives, 2 MPs were in the parliament in the Myanmar.
Okay.
We need to understand this.
Okay.
It's not about majority, minority.
Okay.
It is about a protection of an indigenous community. Globally, you have to see this.
Okay, Nabakishorji, you stay with me. I'll go back to Dada. Dada, how can these fault lines be reconciled? You know, there is no consensus on separate administration. There is no consensus on NRC. There is no consensus on devolution of power. There is no consensus on even chief minister.
Well, Navakishorji said, he talked of me as a Bengali. Absolutely, I'm a Bengali. I'm a very proud Bengali. But I'm a Bengali from Tripura, not a Calcutta Babu. You know, the difference shifts there. As a Bengali, I have demanded, apart from 6th schedule which they have got, for the tribals, the decommissioning of the Gomti Idol project, which just produces 10 megawatt of electricity, but submerges 46 square kilometers of what once was tribal land. This is about justice, not about ethnicity. It's not about the color of the shirt that I wear. So I am slightly amazed at this whole logic that, you know, globally the Nagas are more, globally the Kukis are more. In Manipur, their population is definitely less than the Meiteis. But having said that, I totally endorse Navakishorji on one point. And I've been saying this again and again and again. The real issue is land. The real crisis of the Meiteis is land. Because the Imphal Valley is a small area, and there others can come and buy land. The Meiteis have limitations of going and buy land elsewhere. So there is a serious living space problem for the Meiteis, and there is no denying it. And it's because of that today, because of these insecurities caused by land, because land is livelihood. For me, it's not. Perhaps for Navakishorji also not. But for the cultivator, land is livelihood. And most of our people, be it Bengalis, be it tribals, be it Meiteis, they're cultivators, they're agriculturists. Their source of income is agriculture. Therefore, this is something from day one I've been saying on your show, land is the real issue. Land is also the solution. Land is the problem. Land is the solution. Therefore, I'm not surprised that such an advanced race like the Meiteis, I know Meiteis very well. Meiteis are great achievers. They produce a theater personality like Ratan Thiam. They produce a film director like Aribam Shyam Sharma. They produce so many great sportsmen, so many cultural figures who are revered across India, across Southeast Asia. So these people, when they're asking for tribal status, normally Karthikeya, we all have studied anthropology. People from tribal existence move towards being a nationality. And therefore, this is very surprising that somebody who is a nationality now wants tribal status because they're seeking protection and the grievances are genuine. I would say, I won't call it grievance. I would say the Métis are genuinely apprehensive because of land issues, because of development, lack of development. This whole livelihood issue has been compounded. Look at the unemployment problem among the Métis. That's why brilliant, bright boys in the Métis communities have taken to gun. They've gone to China and got trained from the days of Namai Rakpam, Mr. Singh and Kunja Vihari Singh, the big ojas of the Manipuri underground movement. It's very interesting today that when tempers are running so high, these organizations have not got into this communal slugfest. And I appreciate the role taken by people like Rajkumar Megan, people like Praveen Manohar Mayum, the leader of PLA, that they have not jumped into the fray. They have taken a greater view of the whole situation. But the point here, no, let me finish. You're given a lot of time to other people, okay? So let me also have my say. Yeah.
Naba, please respond. Naba Kishore ji, please respond.
Sir, Meitei are not advanced. The few personality whom talked about, they have contributors. Now let me talk about, you talk about spokesperson. Shall I say that there are lots of gold medalists in the African subcontinents? Is their country advanced? Okay, let's not go by that. For the few personality, it does not create that the entire community is advanced. We are living hand to mouth. You are living hand to mouth. Please come and see. You talk about the big buildings in Imphal Bazaar. That does not belong to Meitei. That belongs to the non-Meitei community. Okay, so this has to be understood very well, sir. And you also told that we are demanding for tribal status. No, we are tribal. Let's this scheduled tribe, this status. There are two reports. Why these two reports are not going from the state? Let it go. Let the competent examine on the report. And if they say that the Meitei is not legitimate to demand for scheduled tribe, okay, why we're stopping? And why there's such a human cry? Even the ST recognition is not given, as if that ST recognition is given to Meitei. So this has to be understood. Okay. Now there is a framework how a community can be given a scheduled tribe status, and as per our analysis, Meitei fulfills all of them, and that's all this fear psychosis coming. And then there's the opposition in the very beginning itself. Let the report go. Let the report go. That's what we are urging to the government. That's all.
That's all. Mr. Hauke, please respond to this, and then we'll go to Dada.
Okay, let me start by saying that if the majority community with 17 lakh population feels insecure, what about the minority 4.5 lakh Kukis? Let me take an example of Delhi, which is comparable to Imphal as the capital in some way. In Delhi, I'm here. I have a walk. I comfortably stays in Delhi metropolitan area. There are institutions, political, administrative, military, and others. So all, services, economy is concentrated in this small land. There is a population of more than 33 crore in Delhi and NCR alone. So I cannot envy some of the marginalized agricultural farmers in the border of Rajasthan, Haryana, UP, and others. So that we have to consider. Likewise, in Imphal, you have all the amenities, hospitals, the institutions, universities, colleges, everything is there. there are so much grievance by the tribals that at least some universities, medical colleges, and other institutions should be also in the hills. But there are many arguments put forward, right? So this consideration has to be taken into account. Uh, you know, that is the crux of the problem. When you have everything in Imphal, why you envy, the infertile, the mountainous lands, which the marginalized peasants are trying to make a living out of it. That argument is not put forward in anywhere.
Bhaumik ji, please respond to this.
I am sorry to say that people who don't have average understanding of how nationalities evolve, it's not related to economy. What Navakishorji is saying is a serious economic problem, and I admit it. Even Bengalis have serious economic problems because of the partition and the division of their homeland. So economy does not bring down the category of a race, a nationality to tribe. We are not going to demand scheduled tribe status for Bengalis.
Let me also say something that, as I've pointed out, in the last 2 decades, 3 decades, or their brother Manipuris are, allowed to buy lands in More and Chirsanpur. Let me take, let me go back 100 years ago or 120 years ago. This whole Chirsanpur area was given to Songpi chief. There was hardly any settlement in the valley of Chirsanpur. Later on, he has given the permission to settle, and in the course of time, the Manipuris also started settling, looking to the business opportunities. So this is a process which is, silently going on, which we don't identify. So, we have Manipuri villages in Tengnopal district today. Kolkata and others are maybe emerging. There are Manipuri settlements in More in the 1980s and 90s. Even today, there are, their populations are growing. So these facts are not taken into taken into actuality, taken into the imagination. And we are only talking about a particular community is not allowed to buy lands in Manipur, in the hills. This narrative has to be critically analyzed.
Okay, Nabakishore ji. Then I'll come to you, Dada. Just a minute, Nabakishore ji.
I'll go here.
No. Please stay with me, Dada. Don't get angry, Dada. Nabakishore ji.
Yes. No, it's a monologue here. You're turning it into a monologue.
No. 2 minutes. Nabakishore ji.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Would you respond to Dr. Haukip?
So I said already, the Meitei, the areas where Dr. Haukip mentioned, they have been there since long. They have been there since long. Okay, so it is not a someone who came just and then entered there. And I say that there are 16 districts, 16 districts in Manipur. In that, the Meitei can live only in 6 districts. Okay, this is to be noted. And Dr. Hauke, what he mentioned is not false in that 6 districts. Okay, so there's no point talking about it. And he mentioned that we are 17 lakhs of people. No, in Manipur we are around 15 lakhs of people. Globally, we say that we are around 17 lakhs. But this is about the
Actually,
identity.
I'm taking from your,
this is about the identity.
I'm taking from your speech.
And for the Chin Kuki people, globally population, if you take, there are 45 lakhs. Okay, and I've been always telling, there is no second home for the Meitei in Manipur. So please don't allow Meitei to go extinct. This is my request.
Actually, the same is true for Tanghuls. The Tanghuls have nowhere to go. The Kukis have nowhere to go.
My request to all of you is, Dr. Haukip, my request to all of you is that, one thing which is very beautiful about conversation with people from Northeast, experts on Northeast, is that it does not turn into a shouting match. So one person at a time, let Nabakishore speak, then I'll go to Dada, and then I'll come to you, Dr. Haukip. This is why our debates are so different from rest of the TV channels. Nabakishore.
Sir, I have done my points.
Okay.
I have done my points.
Okay, you have done your points, so you can take rest for 5 minutes. You stay with me because you have made some important points. Now, Dada, to you. Dada.
See, I'm absolutely aware of the reasons why these kind of demands are coming up and why Meiteis are feeling insecure. And I've said it again and again, that the real problem is the land issue, the livelihood issues, the lack of employment, and the lack of development. Now, are any of these politicians who represent the Meitei community worried about development? Are any of them having any plans to come up with land use policy, a radical new land use policy? Why people only have to debate in terms of, political rights and stuff like that? Why not bring in these critical issues, bread and butter issues? Now I will give you the example of Tripura, where we saw. Now you're saying, oh, these Kukis, these chains, they're all, drug producers, they're poppy cultivators. Are man, give them something alternative. Why this is happening? Because of the disturbed situation in Myanmar, the Burmese drug lords who are having a free run in the state of Manipur. Look at what Thanajam Brinda, the police officer, did. Who did she raid? She did not raid Kukis. Okay? So I don't want to elaborate that. Point is, you suddenly brand a community as drug producer, it's wrong. The thing is, here are people who need some other alternate crop. They can't grow rice the way it can be grown in the plains. So you give them a crop alternative, a land use policy. You don't do that. You suddenly go and demolish all the poppy they have cultivated. Fine. You have no business. Nobody has a business to grow poppy, which can then be taken. But the Burmese drug lords are coming in. Their condition in their own country is disturbed, and therefore they're encouraging people in the borderlands with India, like in the Kuki areas, to plant poppy, because then they can extract it and turn it into heroin or whatever, and then market it into India, which is the big market. So these people come in, the peasants don't have an alternative, they start planting poppy because that gives them a decent income. Now, why can't the government go in and say, don't plant poppies, plant spices, as we have done in Tripura, 17 different spices. And why you have done that in Tripura? Because spices will give the tribal farmer quite as much the same kind of income. And I'm a farmer, okay? I've done rubber, I've done spices in my own land, and I used to do rice before that. So I'm not a Babu Bhadralok of Calcutta who does not understand land. And therefore you have problems like Shingu and Nandigram. The trouble is that nobody is doing this in Manipur. There is so much of ginger growing in the southern part of the state. Why can't you bring in and get somebody to do a ginger ale factory there? People don't even think of these things. They only want some political power. Center से budget चाहिए, चोरी करना है, and अपना जेब भरना है. और घर कहाँ बनाएगा जाके? दिल्ली में बनाएगा, मणिपुर में नहीं, गुवाहाटी में बनाएगा. And I don't want to take names, but I know enough of Manipur and how the political elite functions there. Okay? So I'm not trying to sermonize here, but let me come to two very important points, which is you don't do this kind of alternate cropping, land use policy and stuff like that. You leave a huge vacuum in terms of livelihood. Then you have youngsters who could have been pioneers, as Amartya Sen has said.
Okay.
Young people, the sort of the demographic dividend, it becomes a reverse factor. These people who would be pioneers then become pioneers of discontent. They become not the good Ojas, but the Ojas who go to China, Tibet, get trained, come back with guns and shoot people, right? So what we need to do is to take, definitely I support Hasina very much on this. She's so sensitive. You need an inter-ethnic dialogue with the state at the helm of it. The state should take it forward. Dialogue solves many problems. Number one. Number two, somebody has to forgive somebody for the past. Somebody has to forgive somebody for the present. So the Meiteis will have to look at the question of tribal autonomy with sympathy. The Kukis and the other tribes have to look at the problems that the Meiteis face with an equal degree of sympathy. That's how you're going to do this thing. And last but not the least, the center needs to understand. The Mishrajis and the Varmajis in Delhi need to understand. Yeah, they need to understand that this damn thing is a political problem. Fauj bech ke kuch nahi hoga. You send the force, they control the situation, they do a good job. The Indian Army is a professional army of great respect. But it's not something that the army can sort out. So you need to kickstart a political process, a political dialogue, which so far we have not seen. You know, the entire credit goes, the entire thing, you know, the initiative has to be seriously taken to start a round table, as Hasina said. I totally endorse her on that. And the last point, absolutely the last point I'll make before I go, which is that Manipur is next door to Myanmar. Myanmar is on fire. Myanmar is degenerating into durable disorder. India cannot solve the problems in Manipur if it does wait and watch on Myanmar. We need to take a proactive, as a
Ji.
regional power, a proactive role in Myanmar to sort out the conflicts there. Because if you don't sort out Myanmar, the spillover will burn
Ji.
our northeast.
Ji.
Will burn our northeast.
Ji.
Thank you.
Dada,
I'll go now.
No, Dada, you are not leaving without me. Nabaji, you are not leaving without me because there are two things which I want to come to, and I'm promising
Yeah, I have to
you.
go to the doctor.
Dada, 2 minutes, Dada. Nabakishore ji, Dada made some very important points. Can't there be inter-ethnic dialogue, Nabakishore ji? And can't people forgive each other? Very beautiful words. We must learn to forgive and live. And can't there be inter-ethnic dialogue, sir?
Sir, our Bhomik sir mentioned, and I appreciate that. Okay, he talked about the cultivation of the spices, the gingers. Okay, I request our Kuki friends to support Meitei community for the ST status, and we both, all the communities go together, and we can do plantation in the forest that will generate employment, that will boost the economy. That's I want to propose. It's very simple. It solves everything, and we can live in harmony. That's all.
Dr. Haukip?
Good.
Dr. Haukip?
My question is, when you have the SC, now the OBC, and again recently with the EWS reservation, why do you need the only pie, the only reservation that the scheduled tribes have? In this affirmative action, that is something, or Meitei brothers also would have to rethink about it, because I have seen so many friends in Mizoram University, in Assam University, because of this kind of affirmative actions extended to them. So, my dear brothers, you have to also think about the scheduled tribes, concern to this. Manipur is a homeland to the Tangkhuls, to the Kukis, to the Mao, to the Kabuis, to the Meiteis. So let's not say you are refugees or immigrants who have lived for 400, 500 years. That's, a kind of a selective targeting, a kind of dehumanizing the Kukis. That's very bad for the other group also. So let's have a dialogue. Since there is no space in Imphal for the Kukis to come, something has to be initiated. There are civil society leaders and other groups who are trying to have a dialogue with Delhi. So let's hopefully, hope for a good outcome out of this.
So, Dada, I think you have played a peacemaker here. I will not use those surnames which you have used. So, I think they should listen to you more often in New Delhi. If you can calm the temper on the screen, you can definitely play a positive role there.
Yeah, ऐसा है ना. I have never lived in Delhi. I don't enjoy the benefit of people like my good friends from Northeast who live there, like my dear Dada Sanjay Hazarika. So I'm not a Delhi elite. I'm not a Khan market or a Lutyens elite or whatever you call it. And, post-colonial India, wisdom resides in Delhi. हमको क्या पता है भाई? तो इसलिए the thing is, until that attitude change, in China, look at China, the way it uses Yunnan for its southern outreach into Southeast Asia, into Northeast India. I have always said that we should use Manipur for the outreach to Myanmar. If there is an Indian peace mission going to Myanmar to bring things under control, it should be led by somebody like R.K. Ranjan Singh, my good Tamo. He should be leading it. He is the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. Don't send a Verma ji, Mishra ji, मैं उधर ambassador था 20 साल पहले कुछ नहीं जानते हैं. Yeah, you send somebody like R.K. Ranjan, you send somebody like Zoram Tanga. Well, if you want somebody like me to carry their suitcases, I'm there. I will do it. But the point is, you need to carry them. You need to carry some Buddhist monks. Yeah, like Chalinda Bhante, who is from Assam. He's the head abbot of the Mahabodhi temple in Bodh Gaya. Burmese come and pray there. So you play the Buddhist factor. You take Chalinda Bhante, you take Dr. Thuyen Lam, who is the big Vietnamese monk revered across the Buddhist world with monasteries in both Bodh Gaya and Lumbini. Take these two, but the thing should be led by R.K. Ranjan. He's a Manipuri. He knows, more about Myanmar than the Sharmajis and the Varmajis. I'm sure of that. And if you want me to carry their suitcases and be useful, as a reference point, I'm willing to go because I've lived in Myanmar. I speak the language.
Okay.
The point here is we need to sort out Myanmar and Manipur simultaneously. You can't say, oh, wait and watch on Myanmar. Leave everything to ASEAN. Myanmar jalega to Manipur bhi jalega. ये जो Navakishore ji is right in one way. ये जो spillover effect का बात कर रहे हैं ना, that people are, spilling over and all that. Why? These refugees are coming. Why? They are also, nobody. And I can tell you this. My grandparents became refugees due to partition. Nobody wants to be a refugee by choice. Please remember this. Nobody wants to leave a settled hearth and home for the fun of it, for the picnic of it. But if there is serious political persecution, as happened, during the riots before the partition, people left their hearth and home. And therefore, we have to understand that when you say this man is refugees, ko bahar nikalo, throw out, have a heart, man. So if Myanmar is burning, refugees will come. You have to then have a real challenge of managing the refugee question. And it will complicate the situation in Manipur because more the refugees coming and most of them will come from Chin state and Sagaing. They are ethnic Chins who are ethnic cousins of the Kukis and the Mizos. The Meiteis will feel upset that we are going to become a foreigner in our own land. So I understand that. I understand the apprehensions and all that. But you know what? Nothing can be sorted out by jingoism and chauvinism. The Assamese, as I've told on your show, they were the natural leaders of this northeastern region as it evolved after the colonial withdrawal. Why they lost out? Why all these tribal states came up? Because they failed to, address their aspirations properly. So the Nagas went out, the Mizos went out, Meghalaya went out, Arunachal went out. And there are still so many demands like the Bodos, the Karvis and the Dimasas. Why? Because if you take a jingoistic position, you take a parochial position, I know everything, and I will run them.
Okay.
Democracy is all about consensus, sir. And democracy is all about dialogue. And democracy is all about mutual understanding. I place myself in your shoes and try to understand. So I know the real problem, the tribals are land. Therefore, I suggest demolish this 10 megawatt project and recover 46 km. Why? Because today you have natural gas in Tripura. You don't need these dam, as I would call it. So you give it to the tribals because that is the autonomous area. They are the people. So you can resettle 50,000 families in that area.
Dada, now, Dada, very well put it, Dr. Haukip. Dr. Haukip, do you think that any resolution can be done within the present framework, or do you still feel that a separate administration provides a framework?
I can't suggest for my people, there has to be a certain political settlement so as to move forward in this conflict, definitely. But what can be negotiated depends upon the civil society leaders as well as other groups who are the stakeholders. So there is an urgent need for the central government to talk with those leaders. So please do reach out to them. Please talk with them, and then with only accommodation we can solve this conflict.
Nabakishore ji.
I have also put my points, and that it is not about the majority versus minority. It is not about that Meitei is given the scheduled caste, OBC, some quota. Okay, It is about the protection of this community against the rapid change of the demography, and you already understood the whole crux of this problem. Okay, and of course, in this room, we cannot just come to a conclusion. It's not that easy. Okay, and we are open for any kind of discussion. But I want to put this message to all of the people throughout the country that there is a genuine concern for the Meitei. They are fighting for their identity. They are fighting for their identity. Okay, this needs to be understood very well. Thank you so much. I have a flight. I have to leave now.
Yes. I know that. I have been taking your time, but I think both of you had put these things very beautifully. And let me play out those visuals again on the full screen. And these are the latest visuals. You know, they are the visuals from Manipur. They are as latest as it can be. The debate on separate administration continues. What is a separate administration? How can separate administration be used? Whether separate administration will be allowed or not? You know, these are the questions which need to be answered. These are the visuals. People are coming out. The peace march is being organized in Manipur.
Well, and I think I completely agree, Karthikeya, because, you know, apart from ensuring that law and order gets back to place, the government also has to go for the political solution, you know, get both sides to sit together and dispel the perception that the government is only working, the state government is only working for one tribe and not the other tribe. I think it's a very dangerous situation to have in a state which is already, which shares porous border with Myanmar. I think that makes it all the more complex issue, all the more complex, and security situation all the more, disturbing. And I think if you go by, what we heard that day in the Supreme Court when the entire conversation was going on about, what action the government has taken, and about the Kukis saying, about the kind of threat they face as far as, and the kind of distrust that is there when it comes to police or even the chief minister. What is also very discouraging is, as Nabakar Kishorji was saying, that, the fact is that Meitei community also, seems to be losing faith in the MLAs. We saw that protest in the mother market in Imphal day before yesterday, where the ladies who run the area, who run the shop, run the area, they were demanding where our MLAs, when Kuki MLAs are siding with their own ethnic people. It's a very disturbing situation, and on the face of it, for people of media here in Delhi, this may not be a big problem, but trust me, it is a very, very big problem, because the state also borders Myanmar. It's an international border, and there's no way the government would want the situation to spiral out of control. The government has been seized of the matter. The government is talking to all the stakeholders. The government is reaching out, to all the stakeholders to ensure that the law and order situation doesn't get out of hand. Kuki tribes are demanding that there should be separate administration for them. They have written letters to the Home Minister. They have written letter to the Chief Minister, whereas the Ministry of Home Affairs, the central government and the state administration has made it very clear that there is going to be no compromise whatsoever as far as territorial integrity of Manipur is concerned. So I think, the government has to, the state government has to walk the talk, has to make a reach out to the people, to the tribals of Manipur, to ensure that, that all both tribes, be it Kuki, Meitei or Naga, they are all part of Manipur. They are Manipur only, and there is no way one side can be allowed to hijack or put the state in a situation which might jeopardize the big security concern as far as the state of Manipur is concerned. It's a very, very tragic scenario which is unfolding here. You have to remember, viewers, that the situation is not good. There are thousands of people who are living in makeshift arrangements. They're waiting for their daily essential commodities, which we take for granted sitting here in Delhi, Noida, but the situation is completely different, which is panning out there. What is the government making and doing to get them out of from those camps, and, get them safely rehabilitated to the place where they belong to? What about the financial losses? What about the kind of distress, the schism which is broken out again between Meitei and Kukis, and how this can be salvaged? Is separate administration the only way forward, going by the tone and tenor of the government. It doesn't look like that there's going to be any compromise in this. But can some sort of autonomy be worked out? Can some sort of situation be worked out? So which solves the problem for them and doesn't disrupt the territorial integrity of Manipur. Meiteis, on the other hand, we can never be, because any argument is a very nuanced, layered argument. It cannot be, either pro-Kuki or anti-Meitei or pro-Meitei, anti-Kuki. It has to be pro-everybody. They feel that, that the diminishing land will ensure that they are extinct from the only place which they are from, which is Manipur. And that is the reason why they feel that, that come what may, the situation, they have been a tribal before, the scheduled tribe and all the ST status which they have been demanding should be given to them. Now, this is one scenario, which the government has to take care into account. And what is unfortunate is that this time, both Kuki as well as Meiteis, they seem to have lost the trust. They seem to have lost the trust in the chief minister, because when you talk to the Kuki side, they say that the CM and Biren Singh is a Meitei chief minister. They say that he only caters to Meitei. Today we spoke to Nabakishore. He says that he has no faith in him. He has no faith in those 40 plus 50 MLAs which belong to their tribe. So it's a very, very strange political situation which is emerging, where one side, the majority side, the side which is said to be the dominant side, seems to have lost hope, seems to have lost faith in the people who were elected to represent them. And I think Karthikeya, it's a very disturbing sign.
Absolutely. And let us place those graphics on screen in which we will talk about the separate administration. There are separate administrations. It's not that the separate administrations don't exist, but historically separate administrations have been given at separate points of time for separate communities. So these are authorized under the 6th schedule of the Article 244. These exist. They are seek to safeguard rights of the tribal via autonomous district councils, one. And secondly, ADCs have some legislative, judicial, administrative autonomy. They allow administrative council to become a sort of a highway for them to express their difference, their ethnicity, what they want to do. Governors of these states are empowered to reorganize boundaries of tribal areas. And these sometimes separate councils lead to greater demands of union territories. Sometimes they can exhaust the demand of exclusivity, but separate administration.
What is worrying, Karthikeya, is also the fact that, when you look in the fact that, that you elect a representative to represent your case in the case. But both sides are not both sides, but Meiteis are, it seems, that losing their faith and confidence in the elected
My understanding is
representative.
separate administration works when administration is difficult from a point of view, but only separate administration from an ethnic context becomes very, very problematic. Absolutely. And the whole issue is the states have been organized on the lines of language. Now separate administration is being organized on line of ethnicity. This is a precedent, but I think my opinion is that the separate administration should be organized just from the point of administrative convenience, and that is where they succeed.